Hello everyone, hopefully you can hear me. It's Diana Nguyen here, and I actually wanted to get on today, as I promised yesterday, to have a little bit of a chat in terms of, my motivation for my Sovereign Intuition one-day event, which is coming up next Saturday to be held in Horsley, near Dapto in New South Wales. So I guess let's start with where I've been, what's been happening to me over the last couple of years, right? So I think as you go on a spiritual journey or your own spiritual journey, it can be really exciting because you begin to understand that there's so much more than what we've been taught. I don't know about you, but I went straight into the rabbit hole and obviously, was a lawyer beforehand, then became, the energy intuitive and shamanic practitioner that I am now because of all of it. And if I was to actually reflect on my time, I can kind of see it's quite clear the progression that my own sort of evolution has made over the last couple of years. And it really has been very obvious to me ever since I made the decision to homeschool my son at the end of last year, actually. And, the concept of homeschooling and doing the research around all of that, it really makes you begin to question a lot of what has been taught in terms of even the foundational structures and pillars of society when it comes to the education system and the motivations of the educational system and, what the outcomes of the educational system end up, having. And that reflection then made me look back at my own career and my own spiritual journey and trajectory. And it really has been this journey of self-empowerment. So at the beginning of my own spiritual journey, I was very much giving away my power and seeking out answers and help from people who I perceived to have more knowledge from me, including teachers in terms of, this sort of the spiritual world and all that sort of thing. And at that stage, it helped me. It worked really well because it made me see certain things about myself and understand things about the world that I had no idea about. And then as I grew stronger in my own intuition and trusting myself, that's when I started to question and notice the cracks. And even my own intuition will start telling me, this doesn't seem quite right. This particular teacher doesn't seem totally was on board before with what they were saying, but now it doesn't feel quite right. Maybe it's time to move away from that particular teacher and find somebody else and all that sort of thing. And I guess having a stronger connection with my spirit guides and all that sort of stuff, I was beginning to be taught many things through them as opposed to, I guess, what, the people who are purported to be experts in our spiritual community, for example. Some of it was exactly the same as what was being taught by those teachers, and others were a little bit different. And as I was going through that, I really saw how much power I gave away to teachers and external sources of perceived authority. And as that happened and I was doing my own, work on myself, I also began to realize that I absolutely hate authority, especially when they're telling you to do certain things, which to me is ungrounded and doesn't have any basis. And, kind of, I guess, it's almost like a parent who tells their child, you must do this, and the child goes, why? And then the parent goes, because, ... right? no real basis for the because. It's just, oh, you just do it because that's the way that I've done it, which to me is not a proper or a valid argument to have. So with that, I was beginning to question a lot in terms of authority, whether it's government structures, whether it's, teachers, whether it's schooling. And at the end of the day, where I settled was the authority lies within myself. Every person's authority lies within them. It's up to them whether or not they want to follow somebody else or whether they want to break away from someone else. But at the end of the day, the choice of what you do in life is up to you. And what I was realizing was a lot of things that we're taught by our teachers, a lot of those things are really valid. But similarly, there's always room for growth. And at the end of the day, you'll take what was taught by your teachers and you'll probably change it to suit where you are. And there's nothing wrong with that whatsoever. And it chops and changes. So just because you were taught one particular thing doesn't necessarily mean that you have to stick to that particular thing the entire time. It is okay to actually change. And so because of that, I was realizing that, wow, people need to come back to themselves. And they have to, in some ways, they actually have to do the work to understand how they actually work. Because I think a lot of us have become quite lazy and we just want to outsource our answers, our questions and answers to somebody else. But at the end of the day, we actually have all of the answers, but we just have to find out how we work. So that's where the whole sovereign intuition workshop has come from. It's really not about teaching you techniques. You're not going to come in and learn, oh, this is a new way of accessing my intuition, or let's do a visualization here, or anything like that. It's none of that sort of stuff. I'm going to be teaching you. I'm going to help you recognize your own signals. That's what this workshop is about. It's about understanding you much more. And there will be exercises there that will help you to do that. But it's really about coming back to self. That's pretty much the whole workshop, coming back to yourself. And I'll just be there to help facilitate that. Because the more you begin to notice what happens in certain circumstances and how you work, then you begin to exercise that muscle. So next time something happens, you might sense or notice something, and then once you notice it, that's when you can make a conscious decision in terms of whether something is right or wrong for you, or whether a particular decision is being based upon, say, beliefs and thoughts and all that sort of stuff, which is not in your alignment. So I had a really good example of something like this coming up this week, actually. And, it kind of took me aback a little bit, because my initial reaction was, man, this is the stance that I want to take. And then as the minutes ticked by and, my mind starts getting in and looping around the whole people-pleasing sort of thing, it's almost like I could notice my own sabotage of what my initial response was to this situation. And it made me pause and then go, well, hang on a second, what was it? What was my initial response again? It was this, okay, I'm just going to stick with that. And so that's kind of what this workshop will help you, do. It'll help you recognize when you have this initial response or reaction to a particular situation, and then when the mind and the logic and all those sabotaging beliefs and all that sort of stuff and society and all that come on top. And then you can get rid of all of that and come back to, your original baseline sort of thing. So it's a pretty slow-paced day from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. And we've got, the particular segments there. There's about 4 segments that I have planned, but with all the things that I do, it's very experiential. So we'll just kind of see where it goes. Catering is included with the day. So you don't have to worry about your food or anything like that. When you register, I'll ask the dietary requirements and make sure that they're looked after. So all you really have to do is just rock up with a willingness to sit with yourself and be really honest and reflect on certain things. Because this day really is about you. It's not about me whatsoever. And it's pretty informal. So, there's no need for you to feel like you have to do things in a certain way. Because again, as I said, it's really about you. So if you do feel the pull, then I can put details, the link to just go have a read of it in the caption, and it's in my bio and all that sort of stuff. So go and take a look. And because it is going to happen next Saturday, I'm probably going to close registrations next Thursday, just to make sure that we've got the numbers and I don't kind of cause my caterers to be stressed out by adding more people or whatever. So, you'll kind of know whether this is for you. It's not something that's for everyone. We're all in our different stages of life and where we're at, stages of readiness and all that sort of stuff. So if, having listened to what I was saying, if you read what's there and it feels like, this is the sort of thing for you where, you've been looking for something to help you come back to yourself instead of being laid with teachings and techniques, then maybe follow the call and, give it a go. And if you don't, that's absolutely fine as well. At the moment, it's just an in-person event. And, I'll see in the future whether or not I'm guided to make it an online event or something like that. But right now, it's just that event. And I can't promise whether I'll be actually doing something like this in the future either. So, yeah, if you do feel the call and, there's some financial pressure, because I know, man, there's a lot of stuff going on right now. Just reach out anyway, okay? And we can have a chat. Again, no pressure. Just kind of see where you're at. So if you've got any questions, feel free to DM or put in the comments below and I'll get back to you. Otherwise, I hope you guys have a great day and, just continue to make the choices which really work for you. I think that's the most important thing. Make sure you make the choices that work for you and don't be swayed to do something just because somebody else is doing it. Make sure that it really is, whatever you do, you're doing it for your own benefit. All right. Okay, I hope you guys have a great day and we'll chat soon. Bye.